Let's record. Okay, back with Brett Banfe. We got a lot to talk about. This is Gavin, Brett, my man. Good to see you. How you
Great to see
doing?
you too. I'm feeling wonderful, Gavin. How are you?
Oh, just out here living on living the dream up on the top of the world. It's it's a beautiful day looking outside, and it's great up here. I'm up in the Berkeley, up in the Berkeley, which is by Oakland, and so it's just weird. It's been warm, super warm yesterday, and then it's like cold. Now it's great. It's fun. I love the variety. But tomorrow I'm going up to Oregon for the hackathon, so super excited about that.
Well,
And
I'll see you there.
you're going.
I'm going.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's maybe we could just talk a little, kind of a preview on that and see what to expect. I mean, the last time I was at the hackathon was last year with Scrypt for the hackathon,
Yeah.
and just reflecting on that, Scrypt, they had the hackathon and then we had a lot of people come. It was a great time. The Fairmont Hotel, great ideas, and we had a lot of drama. We had DGens versus boomers there, and there was a war. It was really cool to see the drama, and it was very theatrical. Good for marketing. It was like 4 or 5 thousand people watching the drama unfold, at one point, because it was high drama stuff. But, this time I think it's going to be more about just business and getting things done than the theatrics. So, but I don't know, we'll see. So but yeah, there's a couple of things, cool ideas I have heard about is Twetch, a new Twetch coming or a revive of Twetch coming potentially.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. And other ideas are potential things I've heard rumors of, but I don't know what Babbage is up to and what's going to happen. But as far as I know, I'm going to be one of the judges. I haven't like signed any agreements. I guess maybe it's an unofficial thing, but that's what I was told. So, are you one of the judges?
I'm not a judge this time, but yeah, I participated with the Scrypt Hackathon in judging that one, so that was really fun. It's a great honor to be a judge, and you and I think it's no secret that, we're not the most technical guys when it comes to blockchain, but when we get to participate as judges, it's a great reminder that it's not just about building an incredible technical gadget, but it's really about, making deals and, working with the real world, creating business opportunities, things that we understand. So, it's great to have you as a judge and you as a fresh perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see, what it's all about. I think I know what it's about, but I'm really, really looking forward to, helping, to see the best project and how it's going to work, man. It sounds like it's actually kind of high stakes. Last time, didn't the guy, what was the prize in Austin? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was $30,000 for first place.
That's very serious. That's a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's substantial.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, just thinking about the situation that we're in, we have the greatest technology in the world. This brilliant, Satoshi Nakamoto designed revolutionary Bitcoin technology. And, it's still being kept under wraps, as it's being built out to scale. Of course, it's a familiar refrain to a lot of your listeners and your viewers, but no one really bought into Satoshi's vision from the very beginning. He always envisioned that this could change the whole world, that it would, change the world even to a greater extent than the internet itself. And the first people that reacted to him, it was dismissal. It was all of the reasons why it's not going to work, and all of the reasons why we need to suffocate the technology and kill it in its sleep effectively. And only by doing that can we really ensure that everyone has a fair shot to play the game of called basically speculate on Bitcoin. Well, of course, speculating is not the name of the game. So I just want to take this moment as we're a day before we travel to the hackathon to just reflect on what an incredible opportunity we have to, not only we are going up there to meet with great friends, to, to reconnect. We'll probably see a lot of people that we haven't seen since back in San Francisco. But like you said, there's high stakes on the line. There's literally money. You can potentially earn like, a whole salary, a year's worth of work just to come up here and to develop something cool and to innovate and show the world what Bitcoin is truly capable of.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm most excited about because the I feel like we have a special little bit of knowledge. Like in a way, it's not really knowledge; it's just the insight. I think because everyone else I talk to, all they can talk to me about is crypto and how much the price is going to be worth. And while I think that's really cool to have to make money on trading cryptos and making and doing it, I really encourage if that's your thing, it's great. It's awesome. There's so much more though, dude. Like the real value in it is not just the price of the crypto coins. It's the value of the technology and like the where it's going and really I think that Kurt describes it best is the data is the new value, the actual data. That's the valuable part of what this is all about. Is like the data is the new internet, the bit side, and that's like people just don't understand. I think it's such a new concept that we're just a little early, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the beautiful part about it. Yeah. So
And and it's not just data, but it's also self-sovereign data. Because it's, we have as a human species, our eyes are always bigger than our stomachs. We envision the future before we can actually put it into practice. And that's part of what our great value is as a species is we're such great innovators, we're such great creators and thinkers, and we have these nimble, adept minds to invent a future that doesn't exist yet. But and we need that. We need to be led by our inspiration, by our innovation. And but up until now, this point in history, we've been victim of the technology that the highest levels of technology that we've had. And that has required things like, mesh networks where all of the information is coming into central repositories and central hubs, and then it's being passed along. But then what you see is with things like, the NSA spying on all Americans, et cetera, you see that, okay, well, these things that while they were good enough at the time, when we were in the 80s and the 90s, and we had to rely on this centralization of infrastructure just to get the communications between, New York City and LA. That's great, but we're beyond that now from a technological standpoint. We don't need to succumb to the pitfalls of these centralized data structures. And that it requires people who are bold, who step out of line and say, you know what, I don't want to be just a piece of information that Google owns. I'm so much more than that. And yes, I want to do private business with my private, business associates, and it's no business of the NSA or anyone else. And so we need a robust system that walks that fine line between being, a police state and a nanny state, and then a purely, reckless sort of, no oversight whatsoever. Where now all of a sudden we have, missing people and, all types of nefarious things that happen when you have a purely anonymous, exchange system. So Bitcoin at this moment in time, it's so much more than just a hackathon in Southern Oregon. It's so much more than just the showcase of the full Babage tech stack that they've developed, but it's really about a statement. It's about saying no to passwords and saying yes to self-sovereign data. And we need to tap into that innovation and that inspiration that people have, to step out of line, to create the future that they want to see in the world, and to a post Google and a post centralized data structure system. And that system can only be built on BSV. And I think the Project Babage stack is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I mean, how is it how is it even possible that people don't know? I'm not saying people don't, but I mean, maybe 30, 50 people go to this event. I don't know. I mean that the whole technology world is not swarming around this, like just just capitalizing on this as the newest biggest tech boom after AI. I mean, how is this not the biggest thing since AI? How is it not? Can you tell me? Because maybe I'm missing something that I'm like, no, it's not that big of a deal. No, it's this happens all the time. We don't need to be excited about this. I mean, I just see it. How is it not? I mean, I get the AI boom, right? And one of the analogies was Facebook. Now, this is a rumor. Meta. This is a rumor that Meta. I don't have proof of this, but apparently Meta, they had a bounty out there off the record for $1 billion not salary to pay. That's 8 figures to a guy. 8 figures if he knows how to do the large language model coding on the AI bots to build those robots, to build those large language model bots. And I guess there's only like maybe 20, 30 people in the world that know how to do it properly. And the way I'm seeing it is that the guys who know how to build on the language of Bitcoin and code the stack, like with BRC 100, that's the next wave of that. That's how I see it. But how is that not, Brett? I mean, am I just like too hopeful? I'm too optimistic. You know, I mean, it's just not. That's not realistic. What? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Maybe this is just a metaphor, but the innovation of atoms, the innovation of atoms in and of themselves, atoms are wonderful things, right? But it's not necessarily just how atoms interact as individuals, it's also how they connect and form molecules. It's only when they can connect and they can work with each other, the pluses of one offset the minuses of the other, etc. Well, I think the reason why the value proposition of Bitcoin BSV is still so lost on so many people, even though examples like AI have really taken off, is because really the core value proposition of BSV is that it allows these various different pieces of data not just to be isolated, individualized, right, but how they work together with smart contracts, how you exchange data across a secure system, etc. And so what you're seeing is, I think it's the technical or technological equivalent of the leap from just atoms into the complexity that you get with chemistry with molecules. And because the real innovation is, and this is why the Project Babage tech stack is so important, is because, first of all, you need to have interoperable data structures. So the data structures that they're using, and the DMV, the Colorado DMV, has already implemented some of these things like DIDs. They're called decentralized identifiers, decentralized identifier documents. Right. So you have these data structures, but you can't have a million different organizations using all of these various different protocols, right? So what Project Babage and the innovation that they have saw, and what this is really the product of, years and years of their hard work and effort, from scoping it out to building the specs to building it in staging to building it in production, etc. And that's why it's called a BRC, because it is not just independently being developed and designed by Babbage. It is a request for the community's input and feedback. But what we need to do is we need to formulate these interoperable standards and these interoperable structures for the data. And only when we can formulate them as these interoperable structures, then we have the ability of, you get the sum of many parts is greater than the one, right? Um, So it's not just about, and this is not just pie in the sky. This is not just, an imaginary world that I'm describing. This has to do with our data, for example, on our social platforms like X or YouTube or Facebook. And under the old architecture systems for infrastructure, they're making lots of money earning your revenue, Gavin. So, that's another reason why it's not so such people aren't leaping in, because we do represent a threat to established systems of governance and control when it comes to the financials behind the flow of data. But what we feel is that by returning that sovereignty back to the individual, where it's their data that they're in control of, that they can choose to allow that data to populate on the Facebook platform, but they can also choose to pull it back. And if they want to choose to add that data to the X platform instead, that data is still theirs. I mean, why do my thoughts about what I was thinking a decade or 2 decades ago, why do those belong to Facebook? Those should be that's my data. It should be independent of the centralized structures for whom that data is being served through. And it's only when we can work together to build and define and scope these structures, and then build the ways in which they intercommunicate and interoperate with each other, then you see the dynamic transformation, and the market will run to catch up, because it is a monkey see, monkey do world that we live in. And so the whole point of this hackathon and what we're doing as innovators in this space, yourself, the listeners, and those who are participating in this ecosystem, they're setting the groundwork for what this future looks like.
Yeah. So what last time it was what was the company called that won last time? What did they do?
Winning, it was get paid.
Get Paid. That's right. So Get
Yeah.
Paid was doing they were like a really important company, because they were going to be the ones that were saying, look, if you want to build a cool business or an idea, you can use this system, Get Paid. And you get like a bounty for developers. Isn't that what it's supposed to do?
Exactly. And that speaks to the process that we were talking about that interoperable data structure. And when you look at the word Bitcoin, I mean, it's bit, which is data, and coin, which is money. So the ability to monetize data directly and say, if you complete these functions, if you complete this work, then you don't need to submit a review. You just get paid automatically. And that is the innovation that we're bringing to the market. And what you're going to see is that it is going to incite a transformation in the way that is not dissimilar from the transformation that originally happened when paper stocks moved to digital ledgers. And, if you recall back in the 80s, et cetera, everything was still issued on paper. And you nowadays we hardly ever keep paper. We keep it in our filing cabinet just in case. But mostly it's all electronic and digital records. And so what you're going to see is that the complexity of these interoperable data structures allow for new governance models, where things like, for example, a multi-signature sale of some tokens, like for example, tokenized stock, that may occur with 3 of 5 board members signing approval, but it can be any three, or it has to require the CFO and any other 2 board members. So, you can set these new boundary conditions on what the complexity of that data economy looks like. And what you really see is that, we're talking about it in terms of the complexity that you add, in terms of the features that you're able to create, new features. But really, those new features do, and especially automating those new features do, is allow for simplification and efficiency. So instead of having to wait on the CFO's desk for 2 to 3 business days while he gets around to signing it, he has the ability to do a one-click sign, or she has the ability to do a one-click sign that immediately gets recorded in an immutable ledger. And that's the other part about this, because we're talking about mostly the Babage tech stack. And so I'm framing the conversation in that regard. But, when you look at what's below that tech stack, we're talking about the most dynamic, interoperable data structure that has ever existed, the Bitcoin network. And so you get the ability to offload the responsibilities of data management to these professional services like these full mining nodes, these overlay services, etc. And so you see that no longer do you have to be, in order to be a company, just like back in the day when imagine that you wanted to sell lipstick or something like that, you needed to hire a group of people that maybe they would go out and find you your customer. So that's where you get these systems like knocking on doors and trying to sell, directly to the consumer, et cetera. Whereas now, if you want to build a data a sales pipeline like that, you just put it online. You don't need to have a team of people going out on knocking on doors. You save all of those costs. And what we're going to see with the emergence of the business solutions that BSV and the Project Babage tech stack represents is you're going to see increasingly this optimization flow where what it is direct delivery of utility to the end customer from peer to peer. So from Gavin, the creator, the content creator, directly to Brett, the consumer of that content, without being YouTube being in the middle, taking the lion's share of those feeds.
And okay, that it will be a beautiful thing, Brett, to have that. How would how would the consumer find that person? Would they have to find, let's say, find me? Would they have to find me on YouTube first, and then they go over to another place? I mean, how would that
I mean,
work?
it's a really great question, and we can look back to the Project Babage tech stack for at least one solution to that. So Babbage has built these cool certs, these cool certifications, and what it is it just certifies that you're cool. And so, but it is just a proof of concept, right? We can certify anything. We can certify that Gavin is a excellent curator of content and creator of content. And so, we can sign these certificates for each other. And just like when we used to do Follow Fridays or, things like that on the old Twitter platforms where you get to share what you're interested in, increasingly we see that we, the people, have the voice. And so I don't necessarily want to know what CNN thinks about this subject. I care what Gavin thinks about it because I've vetted him. I've met him in person. I know that he and I are aligned on many of these ideas. And so what we increasingly see is a more personal experience of the world around us. And we have the ability to use this technology to certify the experiences that we share with each other. And so then you get to see that it's not only the capacity to monetize directly the content that you're creating, but also the ability to certify whether or not you're a valid consumer of that content and how long that content has been created. Because I know you are aware, as a lot of us in this space are, that there's tons of impersonators of us. We see a Gavin Mehl pop up on the X platform,
Yeah.
once a month, trying
Uh,
to
I
take
can't
over
even,
your
yeah, I
good
can't
name.
even flag them down enough. Unfortunately, there's so much spam on those. So, yeah,
Exactly. And this is the world that unfortunately, I hate to say it, but the systems of centralized control, they want these types of opportunities where it's easy to mimic real work and it's harder to do the real work of creating the great content and building the fan base and it's and getting them excited about your show. It's much easier for me to pretend that I'm Gavin Mehl and I'll earn a portion of what you were going to earn, right? So the more that we can have this interoperable shared experience with each other where we certify each other's and we provide these testimonials of each other, the more increasingly it becomes less about what the mainstream narrative wants, what they want the message to be, and it's really more about what we, the people, want for each other.
yeah. Yeah, this is an exciting time, Brett. It's for sure exciting. I mean, it's amazing to be a part of it. I mean, I just look back at like a lot of the guys that brought us to this point, and am so grateful to them, to the name, to the even to like to the Xiaowei Lus, and even like Jack Lu and these guys, or the Twetch guys, the those guys. I mean, these people, even like Ryan X Charles, who I never got the opportunity to meet, but these people were pioneers, in San Francisco when I was following Bitcoin when it first when Bitcoin Cash came out, and Ryan X Charles was talking about it, and I thought, wow, this really makes sense. And I heard about Roger Ver. I was like, Roger Ver. I started watching him. Oh, what's this all about? So just watching these people, and the ones that really paved the way. But it's a long road, because when it always, like back in 2017, those guys were going all in, like Ryan and Xiaowei Lu and even Jackal. They're going all in and putting their whole life into things like that. And then it's hard to stay at it, because then they get attacked so much from the Greg Maxwell's of the world, and they try to sabotage everything in their life and ruin their life, and it's very demoralizing. It can be demoralizing, for those people. I get it, so we owe a lot of gratitude to those people who pioneered and paved the ways to get to this point, because one day, those people will be remembered for what they did in the beginning, I think. And when at the end of the day, we are going to win. There's no doubt that the original Bitcoin is the way forward. We just have to stay the course till it happens, we get what's called, I guess, the adoption moment. And I don't know when that's going to be, but I think that tomorrow and the next few days is going to be a big part of it, because when we have these, whatever the winners are, the best projects that are going to come out of this are the ones that are going to be paving the way, that are going to be making the big difference in the next few years. I mean, what are you most excited about? That we have to look forward here to. Like what is?
The energy and the enthusiasm of other individuals who, they all of this stuff that we're talking about on this show, everyone gets it when you get to one of these events. You don't have to say, well, here's why the centralized data structures don't work and why ownership of your own data is a much better idea. Everyone gets it. And there's
But
the
small
old.
blocks, Brett. Small
Yeah,
blocks.
yeah, exactly. And it is a hallmark of some of the conversations, like I think the classic example is capitalism the way forward? Is it the path forward, or is communism the path forward? Really, there's a lot of those types of black and white scenarios in our culture. And like anything, it's about really putting your money where your mouth is putting up or shutting up, right? And so there's a whole contingent out there that really wants everything to be exactly equal for everyone, et cetera. And, a lot of these people have really great reasons why. They're not motivated because, they want to see their fellow man starving or anything like this, right? They're motivated by really great reasons. But a lot of times, this type of content about which way Western man should the world go, right? It there's a lot at stake here, and so anytime you have a lot at stake, let's just say for the sake of discussion that capitalism ultimately is the right path forward for the Western world, right? But let's say that a really great narrative for communism might delay that by a decade. So you'll never replace it entirely, right? Because just like you said, what's going to win in the long run is going to win. There's no stopping it, right? There was no stopping, no matter how hard the candle makers worked. There was no stopping electricity, right? Electricity was going to win in the end. But the candle makers could outlast it for a decade. They could, and what ends up happening is these we're never going to fully defeat this, but we can make it take a decade longer than it otherwise would. Those decades can sometimes become expensive, and so it becomes, whose heart's in it for the right reasons, and that's one of the reasons why I hate to be cheering on the price of BSV right now, but it's one of the benefits that you get of having a coin whose price is a lot more modest compared to these other prices. Because when you look around in the ecosystem, and when we look to the people that we're going to be meeting with, the developers that we're going to be meeting with at the Southern Oregon Hackathon, we're not going to be seeing people who are just there because they're just riding the coattails of the coin, right? Like you would see at a lot of these BTC conferences where they may not have answers to the questions. They may not be technically proficient about how the network actually functions. But what they are good at doing is like a little lemming following the friend in front of them that is blindly going over the cliff. What you see with their BSV ecosystem is you see independent thinkers. You see people that aren't just buying what's being sold to them, but they're actually doing the work and testing it. And that's what Satoshi wanted from the very beginning. Because as we all understand, Satoshi did envision that capitalism would win in the end. And Bitcoin is not the replacement for capitalism, right? We get this idea that, oh, be your own banks and you don't need any of this legacy architecture and the legacy financial system and the legacy financial structure. Well, famously, your Bitcoin's not going to loan you the funds that you need to buy your home, right? There's still a need for these old school legacy financial structures. What Bitcoin simply does is it improves the efficiency. It creates new opportunities for functionality and for features, and it creates more accountability by ensuring an immutable log of the information that is being recorded. And so, I think that that's what I'm most excited about, really, is seeing the other people who, they get this from the word go. And really, what we're all doing, we're out there, we're not trying to pump bags or anything like that. We're out there with our heads down. We're doing the hard work. We're making introductions. We're doing deals. We're introducing our associates to this network and what's possible with that. And, like anything, you start with a slab of marble, and it's only through the work and through the innovation and the love of the artist that you end up with the David. And what we need to be doing is just continuing to chip away at that facade, and we need to see the future, the interoperable data structures, how it's going to change the world. We need to see it as clear as if it was right in front of us, and then we need to act as that is our reality. And I think that's the key to manifesting it into the world.
Yeah. It seems like the way forward, Brett, is really exciting with this. I mean, it's like the people. Have you ever looked back at the charts? When I first got into this, it was all about the charts, and I wanted to learn about trading crypto because that's what I thought this was all about. When I learned about this, it was the first number of years. That was like freaking for the first 5 years probably of this. It was all about how can I trade crypto and look at the chart possibly to get the best trade, because it's going to dump and go, you're going to dump on everybody. I'm going to dump it all on the other guy as soon as I can. That was the strategy. And then get out before the thing goes to zero, so, but every time on those charts, what would happen is that they would go up and then they would go down, and then at the end you were pretty much done, and then it would go away and would never come back. Now some of them are still on the hope of, oh, we're going to come back, we're going to make it, we're going to survive. And I think that's the big difference, is that when you look at, like, in a macro scale, and everybody, when I say everybody, like the AIs, if I ask an AI this, they're going to compare all the cryptos, and they're going to put Bitcoin, like original Bitcoin BSV, in that box, and they say, okay, well, it's at the very end of its thing, so it's done, and it's probably going to go to zero any minute now because it's about to close, it's about done, just like all the others that have already been through this. And I think that's the big difference. It's like, wait a second, it's actually just at the beginning. It's not at
Absolutely.
the end. It's the beginning. It's only just started. Like, as in, like, maybe, within the last few years, and maybe with the Terra, I think with the Terra node, it really is just the beginning, because it's finally scaling. And these people that are going to this event, to compliment on what you were saying about the camaraderie, it's like the mastermind principle where like these people are all on the same page and they're all after the same common purpose of having an interoperability system, and I'm not even sure I understand what that word means. And you mentioned it, and I want to see if you could define that word for me. But like this decentralized interoperability system, which we're all on the same page that we want to have a peer-to-peer system. We want to cut out the middleman. We want to have our own data sovereignty. We see that same vision. We just want to see how to get there. So that's like the excitement of the mastermind principle. We have the same goal. We all have the same goal. So we're not going there to fight over block sizes and how BTC is better and we troll each other. So it's just that's really the exciting part too. Really, everyone's on the same vision. But yeah, what is interoperability? I mean, what is it? You mentioned that.
Yeah, so interoperable is just that the same data set can be used in multiple different, out or in multiple different contexts. So, a good example could be, like a game item where you unlock an achievement in a certain game, and then you can actually go to a completely different game and use that same user or that same skin or that same cosmetic. Maybe it's a gun or something in CS:GO. You can also use it in Fortnite. So these could be games that are developed by completely independent parties. They're not coordinating and they're not communicating with each other, but because it's a flexible, interoperable and decentralized data structure, you can bring it to one game, and just like you can bring it to another game. You can wear your watch on your left hand, you can wear your watch on your right hand. It works the same, it reads the same time. And so that's really the key. The we have interoperable uh we have interoperable physical things, right? I can use my golf wedge to chip a putt in, but I can also use it to get my frisbee out of the tree if I want to, right? There's interoperability with physical things. It comes preloaded into the context of it being a physical thing. Where there isn't interoperability is with digital things, because digital things up until now, up until BSV, have relied on central repositories for that data structure and for what it is, for central definitions of its meaning, of its value, of its usefulness, right? And these data structures, they don't talk with each other. When I go to the Radio Shack and they ask me for my phone number, and I go to the Home Depot, they ask me for my phone number too, right? Because they're keeping independent data sets of who I am. There's not a unified version of that data structure that gets bestowed on each of them with my permission. So really what it is, this novelty that Project Babage is originating, that's only possible because of the flexibility and the scalability of BSV, is the interoperability. And this is actually the value of cash. So when we do physical exchanges of cash, you don't need to have one bank talk to another bank. No one needs to know what the status of my account at my Chase card is. I give you a $20 bill. That's it. And this is what the innovation that Satoshi originally envisioned, was the interoperability of digital cash. But what we see with things like the BRC 100 stack and things that Babbage is building is that we can take that same interoperability and that same utility value that you get from decentralized cash protocol, and you can assign and ascribe other kinds of data to it. For instance, here's my first, middle, and my last name. Here's my address. Here's my date of birth. And then I can selectively reveal some of that information. If I need to prove that I'm 21 to buy alcohol, I can selectively reveal the information that I'm of age without ever revealing the information about where I live. And so what you see is that we're emerging into a more accountable, more integral, and this is part of the, like, I get really excited about the philosophical aspects and elements, as I know that we talk about a lot. But really, when we talk about why that's possible and what that creates, when we create this new accountability and integrity system, it is a small world network. It is I share the information with whom I wish to share it with, and that's it. I have the choice. I'm a sovereign individual to be able to say I want Gavin because I'm a follower and a fan of his content. I want him to know what my name is, where I'm located. I'm in Colorado. I'm viewing his content for X numbers of hours per week, etc. But maybe another content I just want to look up how to fix my sink or something like that. I don't want them to know any information about me. I'm just, like I don't have a relationship with that person. So why should they have all this information about me? As we get increasingly into this hypersensitive GDPR, digital passport for technology, we're seeing that increasingly we the people need to insist that we have the control over our own data, and it's going to be a big talking point going into the future.
Definitely. And going to this event, I want to go in. I want to ask you about some of the fun, wild topics that are off topic in a minute about the coins and the Satoshi coins and all that in a minute. But before I do that, let me go back to this event. So the one of the hottest things, and I really hope that someone is on top of this tomorrow at this event. I don't have all the solutions, but the Clarity Act, okay, it's in Congress and we already have the Genius Act. It's passed. So we have these new laws. The genius we can bet on, we can bank on that. That's here. Clarity Act, we don't know for sure. So, but we know 100% the Genius Act is here. So, I mean, I really am hopeful that there are people there tomorrow that are realizing the opportunity that we have about capitalizing on this Genius Act for the stable coin implementation. We have the money stable coin. I mean, there's got to be a million business opportunities with that. I mean, I can't even, I don't, that's just too complicated for me to wrap my head around. I'm just hoping for one good idea. I mean, can you come up with just one good idea right now, Brett, that might be a good idea for a Genius Act, stable coin, Bitcoin type of
I mean,
idea?
yeah, so I think it's really about, who the customer is and finding out what they want and how to solve their need better than competing technology, or better than a complete competing service provider. So, Bitcoin, BSV, it touches so many aspects of the world. It really can pick and choose which service provider it wants to be better than. There's the famous saying that like if you're in the woods with your friend and you see a bear, you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than your other friend, right? So look around you at who is the service providers who are terrible. And then build a
Hmm.
solution that just provides a better service for them. Credit cards are the ultimate horrible service provider. I can't tell you how many times I'm aggravated with my card. I'm getting checks. Hey, you spent $1.50 for this cup of coffee. Was this really you? And I'm getting. It's like it's a nightmare dealing with this stuff. And this is my money. I don't have to get anyone calling me and checking if I want to buy this screwdriver at the Home Depot, like no one checks if my $5 is really $5, so go back to the original use case of Bitcoin, it's digital cash. So and that's brings what you're talking about, which is the money stablecoin solution, right? What these businesses and I'll tell a story really quickly because I love this as a demonstration of the point we're describing. I had the good fortune of working with, the Handcash team, Alex Agut, a really incredible mentor for me as a human being, but also, in a professional context as well. I really love Alex. And, I admired everything that he did in to shape this culture, this community. He has since moved on and has left Handcash, and we miss him. But I got to visit lots of different parts of the world with him. Had dinner with him in Dubai. Had crabs with him in San Francisco, etc. And one of the, he would always tell me these like fabulous, fascinating stories. Like a lot of people maybe don't know, but I think at one point, Handcash was invited to the offices of Coinbase. Coinbase wanted to buy them out. But again, you're talking about these people, they're really intelligent people, but they just don't understand why scaling is important. They don't understand why the original Bitcoin script stack and restoring it to the Genesis version is really important. What they want to see is they just want to say, how can we chase our quarter, not just this quarter, but maybe 2 quarters from now? That's what we really care about. So they don't have the vision that some of these entrepreneurs like Alex, like Rafa, who was his co-founder, have to actually say, hey, we're not just here to chase a 1 quarter's worth of profits, but we want to build the foundation for the next future of the internet itself. And but he would get to go to all these various different wonderful meetings and locations, and he went into the Venmo offices, and he went all the way to the executive desk, the boardroom of Venmo, and he is talking with their senior development team, and he's demonstrating Handcash for them, and he's showing them, look, I can send you a penny, I can send you it as you get it instantly, right? And they were blown away. The Venmo team, which for those that aren't in the United States, it is like a service that we use to send funds back and forth with each other, usually with and some sort of push from our bank account to our Venmo account, but it's not a stable coin. It's all on a digital ledger that they manage and maintain, etc. And so when this senior development team saw a penny moving from Handcash wallet to Handcash wallet that quickly, that seamlessly, that instantly, he remarked, he said, we're running our own database and we can't even move a penny ourselves, even though it's just deleting it out of one Excel field and adding it to another, because there's so much infrastructure that checks and balances and red tape and sign offs and all of this stuff, that the minimum amount that a Venmo transfer can make within their own database is 15 cents. It costs them 15 cents to make a transfer. And that is the unique value proposition of Bitcoin. It's the thing that will still to this day be the dominant use case of this technology. It's going to be digital cash. Money, the implementation is a perfect example of that. But it's not just what you can do with that digital cash, but it's now there's an entire script stack that allows you to create these flexible options for how that money is signed off, multi-signatures and clauses. If this happens, then create this loop, and if that happens, then create this output, etc. Right? And this was Satoshi's innovation. And I really recommend people to just, whatever you're doing right now, after you're done this session, just go back and read the white paper, because he spelled it all out, and it's in perfect clear text on 9 pages. And it's one of those things where once every month or so, it's worth going back and actually reading that entire document.
Yeah, that's all worn out, Brett. You're just
Oh, that's yesterday's news. Nah, forget that.
So yeah, no, definitely the white paper is the foundation of all of this. So, let me ask you now about, speaking of the white paper, like we had these all early miners, the Satoshi era wallets that were all mining all these bitcoins back in the day, and they all showed up in the Kleiman case, and we know that in the Kleiman case that Craig got sued over this and had to produce all sorts of evidence to show that he controlled all these wallets, and was successful on it. He prevailed, and so now here's these wallets that were in the Kleiman case that were moving now. I'm getting mixed feedback on this. So, I got one side that's saying, "Oh, this is a scam." Those are another Craig Wright scam, or that he's involved in, and those are not his wallets. And they went. He didn't do any of that, and it's another scam that this notice got put on there. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm willing to entertain that, but only on the fact that you tell me that those coins didn't move. Now, I think they moved. Did they move from the original wallet over to another exchange and another wallet? Didn't they move all those 80,000 BTC?
I think they did. Yeah. I mean, that was
Yeah,
the big news. And
they
this
moved.
happened, what, 90 days ago, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
So
they
October
moved.
5th, they were going to sell. So that to me right there, the scam is out. Like that's where I'm like, okay, the only way it could be a scam is if yes, someone did steal or find that person's keys. That would be a scam, and that could be that's wrong. And or maybe if they did find the keys, they're giving that person notice. They're giving Satoshi notice. Hey, I found your keys, Satoshi. I'm gonna sell your coins. That seems to be the way I'm reading into it because I don't see that anybody could just graffiti on the blockchain, move BTC without having keys.
Yeah, yeah. It seems that they, that they have the keys. That's my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, exactly. So they have the keys and now they're going to sell. Now, do you know if they sold those BTC yet?
No, I don't believe so. But also, I think it might not be too easy to tell, right? I think this might be not related to the topic that you're describing, but didn't we recently see, like an $8 billion sale or something? Maybe that I pulled that
Yeah,
number out. I don't remember if
I
it's that
think
exact number.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was it 8 billion? And it was sold on Galaxy in a single uh, Galaxy Digital. I think Mike Novogratz is the CEO of Galaxy, right? And he made a post about it. He said, I'm writing to confirm that the largest ever single trade of BTC happened, and it happened on our desk. And yeah, that I think that happened right around the same time that all of those coins were moving, et cetera. And a lot of these coins are from the Satoshi era. Now, that's the beautiful part about it being, identity being firewalled from the blockchain is that even, even though we can suspect, that the earliest addresses belong to Satoshi, we still really don't know. And that's a good thing that we don't know because, we shouldn't know. The only person that should know is the person that's counterparty to that trade, and they, I'm sure, did a lot of due diligence on it. But yeah, so I don't think they've sold yet, but I think that there have been sales recently that have been, you know, of a similar amount. So 80,000 BTC at, let's just say that they sold it at 100 a coin, 100K a coin or something. That would be what? Is that 8
eight
billion?
bill. I think that's 8 billion.
80K. So if it was 80, then it's
Yeah,
800. 800 is 8 million. And yeah,
88 billion.
yeah, 100,000. Yeah, so it would be 8 billion. There was an $8 billion sale, so maybe those already sold. Yeah, who knows? Someone, if you're in the comments and you know the answer to that, leave us a comment and let us know, did those sell?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And what is the there's another theory that I think I don't understand. And I saw old Craig posting about this, and he posts about it every once in a while. And he says it I'm not sure if it has to do with an anons or it's 8chan or maybe 8chan or 4chan, and I'm not even sure what that even means, what a 4chan or 8chan is. But then there's a calendar, and this calendar, and then there's a Craig Wright interview, and here he is with the thing with the calendar or the 8chan or 4chan. Do you know what I'm talking about? This
I
video
think
that's going
so.
around.
Yeah, I
What
think
is
well, first
that?
of
What
all,
does
I
that
love I
mean?
love old Craig
Yeah, me
on
too.
X. So yeah, if you're listening and you're not following him, make sure you follow him. Yeah, but yeah, you're talking about uh one of the comments, that was,
Oh,
was it a
I know
comment or
what it
was it a
was.
calendar?
He was on a video. So it started with he was on he goes on to this guy's video out. This is right after
Yeah.
BCH, and
Yeah.
BCH was out. And then he goes on there and he was drunk. And he
Right.
was so
Like
the
a
guy's
proper
having
Aussie.
yeah, the guy's having a podcast and he goes on there drunk and he trolls her. He's like, "What's going on? I got Craig Wright on my show right now. He's drunk." And he's like, "Yeah." And he starts trolling him and they get into it. He's like, "Oh, you're a fraud or something. You don't know what you're talking about." And then they get into it. And then he says, "Cheers about 2026." Something about, "Oh, we're gonna wait till I'm gonna wait till 2026. You watch." Something like that. And then the video goes into like this 4chan or 8chan calendar. And that's why I don't, what is that? What is the context of that? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, and these are I love these posts
Yeah.
because it's just always fun to wonder, what's going on. It's partly why I got interested in this whole community to begin with, because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, this guy seems crazy, but everything he says makes sense. And and so the more that, people can see this stuff kind of stitched together, it's like, and old Craig does a great job of it. But yeah, I think there's always been those posts that sort of show the Punisher logo and stuff like that, that show that there's like, some sort of connection to bringing down potentially the deep state and stuff like that, right? It is kind of ironic. You would think that the like inventor of a immutable ledger technology would have, like there'd be immutable records somewhere along the way, right? So it's like, but maybe those shoes have yet to drop, and maybe there's reasons for that. We don't really know. And you know, looking back to, I think there's so many clues along the way. And one of those clues, I think, is the lemon law. Are you familiar with the like lemon law and the potential? So look for someone if you want to, you always run the risk when you buy a car of getting a lemon, right? But if you meet someone in a back alley and you buy it off them with no one around, with no documentation, nothing like that, he's got a mask pulled over his face, and you get a lemon, well, you're kind of SOL, right?
Yep.
Whereas you walk into someone that has a corner property that, is in a beautiful part of the town, and, clearly they have their first and last name on the, this is such and such dealership, right? And that guy sells you a lemon. Well, you go walk right back into his shop and say, "Hey, I got a lemon," and you can see. You can't guarantee that what will happen in the future. There's unpredictability. That's just an innate part of the universe we live in. But you can use proof of work as a filtering system. And so I think whether or not this is coming in 2025 or 2026, and whether it's a part of the Q plan, and the efforts to eradicate human trafficking and sex slavery and pedophilia and all of that stuff. I'm fascinated by all of those topics and questions and stuff, but I don't know necessarily the answer to them. But what I do know is that, look for the people who are doing the work, right? Who are building the immutable record trail system, who are, ensuring that Bitcoin actually scales. Only Satoshi cared about that, seemingly from the very beginning. And yet here's this little BSB that no one's paying attention to, just so happens to be interested in all of the same things that Satoshi was originally interested in. So it's a little bit of one of those things where, like, does it pin the tail directly on the donkey? I don't think it necessarily does. But, at a certain point, you see enough of the proof of work that's actually behind the architecture of the system to begin with. And really, that's what's going to confer, that's what's going to be really, what you're going to use to guide you in that inquiry to begin with, right? Because otherwise you're just sort of like chasing ghosts in terms of, but this could happen, but that could happen, like there's a million what ifs, but it's really just about, comes back down to the proof of work. And I think that the BSB community and, Craig, whether he's Satoshi or not, you can definitely say that he has been, absolutely pioneering and instrumental in terms of his contributions to the broader public knowledge about Bitcoin and BSV. And for that, I can always say that I'm thankful to him, and he's taught me more than almost any human being alive.
I just listening to you talking, I'm having like these crazy ideas, and I just wanted to ask, and I never even looked into this. What was Kleiman's background? What was he? Wasn't he in the military? Kleiman?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave was a military contractor, I believe. Yeah, he was a service
He was
vet.
in the military at some point, and then he became a contractor. I know that
Yeah,
then Craig was also a contractor as well at some point, whether it was NSA or whatever. I mean,
yeah,
as far as yeah.
yeah.
So I just thought, I totally forgot about that. And I'm just thinking, like, now that it's come out, and I think it's pretty certain now that the entire 17 movement is now being revived under General Flynn, and the comms have all been on it. I mean, it's not conspiracy anymore. You know, you could watch my buddy Real Joshua Reed on X, Real Joshua Reed, and you will either read his posts or you can go watch his shows he puts out, and you'll be able to see he will decode. It's Tuesday night. He and Alpha Warrior, they do decodes on the Badlands Media channel on Rumble, and they'll break everything down. Be like, okay, here's what's being said. Here's where it correlates back to 2017, 18, and they'll like say the numbers, and it's all mathematically. And it's very complex. But if you're into those complex things, like that's very detailed.
I
They
love
put it
it.
all together. It's so fascinating because like, okay, this number here correlates to this. It's all coded out, so what they found out now is that General Flynn, is now doing the same. He's reviving it all through video now, and they broken it down recently on Tuesday. So Flynn is now breaking it all down. It's all back out. It's all through video now, and I'm just thinking, since that's coming out with Flynn and Kleiman was all from Florida, I didn't realize it's all military. I just want to have some fun. That what are the chances that that entire operation is also blended into the structure of Bitcoin? I mean, and all of it potentially, being, because it's a long-term plan. I mean, and what are the chances of that? What do
Yeah,
you
and Bitcoin is a freedom technology, but freedom is not just there's caveats with freedom, right? Because it has to do with, where you infringe on someone else's freedom, right? And so it's more than just about my personal wishes and desires, right? But we've needed this, Gavin, we've needed something that could come along and sort of shake up this system that we have had, because basically, we've been being held at gunpoint, by our State Department, and the federal bureaucracy, and like all of this stuff. I mean, we're being held at gunpoint. The American people are, because they just they have no incentive to change anything. They have far too much control of everything. The original vision was that it was really the states with the power and everything like that, right? And that has just dwindled over time. And if we look back at sort of the Dwight D. Eisenhower call to vigilance for the American people to be cognizant of the emerging, industrial, the defense, I forget what he called it,
military
but
industrial complex? Yeah.
military industrial complex, that it was a threat, all enemies, foreign and domestic, and here he's identifying that this is
Yeah.
a threat. And so, would I mean, I absolutely would love if all of this stuff was true, that all of this stuff was all being powered by Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was at the heart of it and stuff like that. I mean, you really do see some of the evil players on the other side. Now, correlation is not necessarily causation. But we've needed it. I'll just say that.
If there, yeah, it is. It's one of those things we cannot see God, we cannot see spirit, but those who have faith, they know, and they experience it. It's through their life, and they can they've been inspired through the word, through the scriptures, and they know that Christ is real. And then these are we can't see them. You cannot prove these things, but that's what faith really is. And I think that's there a lot of people would call it the Kool-Aid, or the cult. The cult, they would call it, you're part of a cult for having faith. And if faith's a cult, then I'm in. I guess that's the cult that I'm gonna have to be in. So, Brett, let's reconnect tomorrow. We'll cut it. Let's cut it there. And I will see you there. I'm gonna be, let's hook up. Let's hook up and spend as much time. So it's going to be at that mall there in Medford, and I'm staying at yeah, I think told you where I'm staying at. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm staying same hotel,
Okay,
and I'm
cool.
excited to see your collection of epic concert tees. Like
Yeah.
this is one of the things I look forward
Gotta bring
to.
Iron Maiden or somebody,
Yeah,
or Black Sabbath, or Def Leppard or somebody cool, it'll be
yeah, you always have the best collections. And the other part that I'll say that I really look forward to is these big group dinners that we do at events like this, where it's I love hanging out in the lobby. I love chatting with people individually, and I also love going and socializing and connecting with people and learning what's important to them. And what I try to do as a member of the BS.
Whoop. All right, that's it. We lost Brett, and I'm gonna wrap it there. I'll see you at the top at the ones later.